All right, let's talk about something that really affects every single one of us, mental health. It's so much more than just a buzzword. Today, we're going to break down what it really means, what it doesn't, and take a look at its absolutely staggering impact on a global scale. Let's dive in. So, let's start with a really important question. We hear these two phrases all the time, right? Mental health and mental illness. And they often get used like they mean the same thing. But is there a difference? Turns out, getting this right is the foundation for everything else we're about to cover. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to tackle this in 5 key parts. First, we'll get the definition straight. Then, we'll look at what this feels like on a personal level. After that, we'll zoom out to see the global picture, uncover why getting care is so hard for so many, and finally, look at a really hopeful strategy for the future. All right, first up, Section 1, defining health and illness. Just using the right words is a huge first step. It helps us cut through the stigma and have a much more honest conversation about all this. The difference is actually pretty straightforward when you think about it like this. Everybody has physical health, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. Well, it's the exact same thing with mental health. It's just a part of being human. A mental illness, on the other hand, that's a specific, diagnosable condition that really gets in the way of a person's ability to live their life over a longer period of time. So, where do we draw the line between just a rough patch and a real illness? I think the Mayo Clinic says it perfectly. A concern becomes an illness when the symptoms just keep going, causing a ton of stress, and here's the key, they start affecting your ability to function day to day. That's the critical difference. Okay, let's move into Section 2, the personal experience. We've got the definition down, but what does a mental illness actually look and feel like for the person living with it? Well, it's so much more than just feeling sad. We're not talking about having a bad day. We're talking about patterns that take hold. Things like overwhelming worry that you just can't shake, extreme mood swings, pulling away from people you love, or just a profound lack of energy. See, the key isn't the feeling itself, it's the persistence. It's when these things become a constant roadblock in your daily life. All right, so for Section 3, we need to zoom way out. Understanding the personal side is absolutely vital, but to really grasp the true scale of this challenge, we have to look at the bigger picture. Because what we're really looking at is a silent, global crisis. And look, the numbers I'm about to share, there aren't just guesses. They come from a huge landmark report by the World Health Organization. This is the reality of the global burden of mental disorders, documented by the leading health authority on the planet. Okay, get ready for this first number, 13%. That's the slice of the entire global burden of disease that comes from mental disorders. Just let that sink in. Of all the suffering from every health condition combined, more than 1/10 is from this one category. And this one is just staggering. In low and middle income countries, as many as 85% of people with severe mental disorders get no treatment at all. 0. And even in high income countries, that number can be as high as 50%. That means millions and millions of people are out there facing this completely on their own. And this isn't just about personal well-being, though that's obviously huge. It has a massive economic impact, too. The WHO projects that over the next couple of decades, the lost economic output because of mental disorders will add up to $16 trillion. This isn't some niche issue. It's a major roadblock to global development. And check this out. This chart shows something called years lived with disability. Basically, it's a measure of how much a condition impacts a person's quality of life. And what does it show? In low and middle income countries, mental disorders are responsible for up to 1/3 of that time. It is by far the leading cause of disability in the world. Which brings us to a really big question in Section 4. If this problem is so widespread, so devastating, why on earth does this massive gap in care even exist? Why haven't we been able to solve it? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is infrastructure, or the lack of it. In high-income nations, 92% of the population is covered by laws that protect mental health. In low-income nations, that number plummets to just 36%. And we see that same huge gap with support groups. The basic systems to actually help people, they just aren't there for everybody. And if you really want to see the why behind this gap, just follow the money. It's pretty shocking. High-income countries spend, on average, almost $45 per person each year on mental health. In low-income countries, 20 cents. You just can't build a real system of care on a budget like that. But look, this isn't all doom and gloom, not at all. And that brings us to our final section, which is all about what the WHO recommends we do, a clear blueprint for action that could genuinely change this whole picture. So the WHO lays out a pretty clear 3-part strategy. First, stop treating mental health like it's in a silo. Make it a normal part of general health care. Second, improve social access. That means fighting stigma and creating real opportunities for education and jobs. And third, protect human rights with better laws and by supporting the advocacy groups that fight for patients and their families. So when you boil it all down, the takeaway is crystal clear. Mental health is health. The data, the human cost, the economic toll, every single thing points to one conclusion. We have to start treating our mental health with the exact same urgency and dedication that we give to our physical health. So we'll leave you with this final thought. The World Health Organization has given us a clear, actionable blueprint for change. The strategies are all there. So the real question for all of us now is, what's the next step for our governments, our healthcare systems, and for our own communities to finally close this gap?